Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Andrew. We're both Americans living here in Poland for, well, a long time now, and we've encountered a lot of words here in Polish that are, well, rather difficult to translate.
Right, and so we're here to clarify some of the words and phrases that have confused us or that just seem ambiguous.
These Polish words sometimes can be really difficult to explain in English, can't they?
They can, and sometimes there's really no real direct translation. So we're here to just kind of hash it out and clarify what we can.
And have some fun too, of course. Today we're going to be talking about a topic, well, a rather difficult one, and that is, well, the Polish word wiek. Let's start with that. Of course, easy translation, right, Amanda?
Well, an age.
That's right, it can be age, but it can also be, right, century.
A century, right.
Now, century, of course, is when you talk about 100 years. But in English, we're going to be talking about just the concept of age, and that's rather difficult. First of all, a lot of Polish people make a lot of mistakes saying how old they are. They typically have some problems asking the question or answering the question. Do you have any examples?
Well, a lot of times because they directly translate from Polish, they'll say, I have 30 years.
Exactly. And we never say that. We always say, I am 30 or I am 30 years old.
Right.
Now, sometimes people even say, I am 30 years. And that's a bit strange because that's kind of a strange hybrid that doesn't exist really in the English language. Can you say I am 30 years?
Old.
No, you have to say 30 years old. Yeah, you have to add that old. Or I'm 30. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I tell people just keep it as simple as possible and just say I'm 30.
Okay, and there's another one that's a little bit difficult, I think, and that is skończę, for example, 30. It's not true for me, but how would you say that in English?
Well, since I'm 30.
I'm not 30 either.
Yeah. I would say I just turned 30.
Turned 30. And I never hear Polish people say, I turned 30. They may say, I finished, or what do they say?
Well, they say, I finished 30, and that makes me feel like they're 31, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense
necessarily.
necessarily.
They finished the year 30, and you turn 30.
That whole expression is not used in Poland enough, I think. So it's a nice, easy way to say, I am now 30.
Right, exactly.
I've turned 30.
I've turned 30. But yeah, they say I finished. And so it's just, mentally it's a little different because when you think I finished 30, well, in our mind, you're done with that year 30.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not what you're saying, actually. What you're saying is that I am now 30.
Yeah. And, I have been 30 for a while. And,
we all have been. Don't worry. The other word that I think is a little bit difficult is noworodek. Yes?
Right.
How do you translate? We both have kids.
Right. Well,
here in Poland.
That's pretty easy because it pretty much comes out the same way, a newborn.
Newborn.
Right?
So that's easy. Finished, done. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a little bit more complicated of a word.
I like the word niemowlę because it's somebody that doesn't talk.
I know, exactly. So
but we don't really have that in English. We don't say that.
Well, what do we say? We say infant.
An infant, a baby.
A baby, perhaps. So, and what do you think of infant? How old? Tell me.
Infant to me is, I would say somebody who's not walking or doing a whole lot of anything.
Could you say not talking?
Well, yeah.
Can an infant talk? That's the question, because the Polish specifically
niemowlę.
Niemowlę.
Right.
Means they can't talk.
Yeah.
Now, can the English infant talk is the question.
Well, I guess you know what? I've never thought about that.
Neither I have.
I guess once you start to talk, you become a dzidziuś or a bobas.
Exactly, which would be baby in English as well, right?
So you're just a baby for a longer time in English.
So the question is, baby and infant, big difference, or just one is more, let's say, technical of a term?
I would say most people say baby. Even before they're born, they say the baby in there, and then...
Well, nobody in Polish says noworodek when they're talking about in my
it's a newborn, and really a newborn is really only a newborn for what, like a couple of weeks? Then you start talking about, oh, he's 4 weeks old, oh, they're 8, 9 weeks old, the newborn is like really just...
But infant, I have an infant.
No.
Nobody would speak like that.
That's more like a...
Technical term, right?
Like medical term,
but used in medical literature.
You don't talk about your infant at home. You say, oh, my infant.
Unless it's your husband.
Yes.
Let's move on to another very complicated word. English word, in fact, not Polish, is toddler.
Toddler. Okay, to me, a toddler literally is somebody who has that funny. Toddle is a way of walking. Like
it's back and forth, unsteady walking.
Yeah. So as long as they're not, walking like a pro.
Now, is the toddler in nappies or diapers? That's the question. Can the toddler be potty trained? Can he go to the bathroom or she go to the bathroom?
Now I never thought about that.
Because I always have these strange questions as an English teacher. And you think 3, 4 is typically what I say, but it's not true, maybe 2.
2 or 3. Well, if you have a boy, I think the toddler, if that's your criteria, it could go on for a while. I think, that's interesting with the diapers.
No, I've just thought of it myself when
like
trying to explain these things, and toddler is just a word that we cannot translate into Polish.
I think toddler is somebody anywhere from about 1 to, sort of
3-ish.
preschool age.
Okay, 4.
Yeah, and then they become, by the time they're 4, they're not really a toddler.
So is your son Mickey a toddler? Would you say? Definitely.
He's not. He's
and how old is he?
2.5.
He's 2.5.
So he's still a toddler.
What about my daughter, Lena?
No.
No.
She's kind of tall and everything, but no, even
No.
4. By the time you're 3.5, 4, I don't think they're toddlers.
Well, she said she's a big girl, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another
Mine still
word.
says he's a baby. I say, "Are you a baby?" For a while he wasn't. Now he's we start talking about the big boy pants and stuff like that. I'm a baby, so.
All right. Well,
He's
let's
a
move on to the
toddler.
next word, Amanda.
Okay.
Nastolatek. This is a little bit
Nastolatek.
complicated.
The teens.
Teenager, right? Is what you
Right.
would say. But I've had many students tell me, well, my daughter is 12, she's a teenager. Is that accurate?
I don't think so. I mean,
Well, the word
they
teen
don't have the
means
word
13,
tween, right?
14, 15. So 12, 11, that's not a teenager,
those
is
are,
it?
I think those are what they call now tweens, but that's kind of a new word. I mean, that didn't used to be anything anybody ever said. I think they said preteen or
Adolescent would
is
be more
like, and kind of, more official speak or something. People don't really talk about, oh, my adolescent son or something.
But we do have this word adolescent. That means that you
Yeah.
come of sexual maturity.
You're sort of puberty age, I guess. And
Sexual maturity.
something
right? So
like
something
that,
like that.
or-
Then we have the word teenager, which specifically means from 13 to 19. Because you have
Yeah.
teen. The
I
problem
would
is
say high school.
high schoolish, junior
Yeah.
high. Junior high is also
Junior
teenager.
high, they're
13.
Still, like,
Oh,
I don't
Amanda,
know
come
if
on,
they're
13, the
teenagers,
kid says they're a teenager.
I guess they are,
We're just too old to remember.
Maybe so.
But I think teenage, but with the Polish translation, you have nastolatek and then you have 11, 12. And those two numbers, 11 and 12, don't fit into our scheme of teenager. In fact, we
No.
have word now, tween, right?
Tween.
Which
And
I'm not
there's-
familiar with, but does exist.
Right.
Tween is now popular,
guess
or
that's-
preteen.
Anywhere from 11 to, whenever you're a teenager.
Well, this is a complicated word.
And then there's a pre-tween. Have you heard this? So it's ridiculous.
just to
That's-
make life more
just
complicated.
To make it, yeah.
All right, let's move on to another complicated word, of course, is kilkanaście, which
Right.
people love to use in Poland. Which, how would you translate that one?
Well, I guess a few dozen. I mean, we say dozens.
Dozens, yeah.
Dozens of something, and I guess that would be the way you would say it.
With age, of course, it's a little bit different. We do use the word teenager when you get to 13 or so.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about just counting in general, not necessarily age or just a couple of years, you want to talk about, a dozen years. Well, not a couple of years, but of course 12 years, 13 years, or as you say in Polish, kilkanaście.
Right. So it's just kind of if you're not sure, it's a general rounding off of some number.
But do we use dozen that often? Because in Polish it exists too, but they don't use tuzin.
I would say, they don't really use dozen. I guess if you really are talking about 12 things, I don't, yeah.
It's kind of an English concept, or what is it?
Because
Is it more Western?
You don't really buy 12 of things. Like, you don't buy 12 eggs here, you buy 10, right? And you don't.
I've lived in Bytom for a
Yeah.
dozen years. We would never say that.
No, we might say,
But
if
we would
it
only-
was up there around 25,
2
even
dozen
then,
years?
but, yeah,
It sounds
I mean,
strange.
That's more like, it's not really about counting years. In English, we don't say dozens of years. We might say, 15,
Decades.
20 years, or, over a decade or something like that. But with us, dozen, it really has more to do with counting people or counting objects.
I think.
Yeah.
So, of course, now we get to the really fuzzy area
The
of
middle age.
middle age, yeah,
When
right?
do you become
In
middle-
Polish,
Yeah.
w średnim wieku, right? And
Right.
now, how do you translate that, and when is that, is the problem?
That's-
I was told by my secretary here at our school that is 35, and I was quite disappointed by that
That's
statistic.
utterly depressing. I think it depends on where you are, and I think that as an American concept.
You could
and a
not
Polish
say
concept,
to
you
someone who has their first baby at the age of 35 that she's middle-aged.
No.
That would be unacceptable.
No, I would say, it could. I think it's very elastic. And I think it's all maybe more in the
State of
mentality and
mind.
behavior of the person. You know, I mean, some people are middle-aged. Some people really are middle-aged when they're 35 or 40. You know, and some people are kind of born middle-aged.
Yeah, but I mean, the general thing is I would think as the closer you get to 50.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because I'm 40 this year, and I have to say that middle-aged is not me, but maybe 40 is acceptable. That's middle-aged already.
Not for me, but okay, you know, for some people.
If that's good for you.
I think in America we push it a little farther, and
But not only America, I would assume
Yeah.
England and other countries in the
Yeah.
West don't feel comfortable because we live longer, we have children later,
Yeah, because I think if you ask,
we retire later.
we retire later, if at all. You know, so I think that depends on really how the person feels and sees themselves.
Okay, we'll get away from middle age because it's not anybody's favorite
but it
topic.
kind of ties into the old age thing
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Now we get into old age. Now this is a problem. In Polish, they use, and they think it's polite, starsi, right?
Right.
So the elderly would be the old-fashioned way of saying that. But if I called my mother elderly, I don't think she would be happy.
Well,
She is 72.
right.
But can I call her elderly?
But does your mom call people a decade older old people? Because my parents do.
Yeah, but that's not
Yeah,
official.
I know, but they say that
Not
old
to their
lady-
faces.
No, but they do when they talk about them. But and I'm going, wow, you know, it is a concept that they have.
It's
that's
relative.
That's an old person, and I'm not.
But if you can, first of all, you cannot use the word old person
That's
to
right.
person. I can't say, oh, she's an old person, or it's
No.
not diplomatic.
I think elderly is okay to say. It sounds a little nicer.
But I'm thinking 80 plus.
Is elderly?
Elderly.
Probably now, yeah. I mean, you know, if you go back maybe 20, 30 years, a generation ago, 70-something was pretty old. And that now, those, I think the boomers are that age, and so they're not having
They're
it.
not comfortable with that
No,
word.
they're
So
not.
what do they say, senior citizens?
Senior citizens, I think when they can pull out that, you know, discount and use it, they love that, you know. I mean, that's about the only time they seem to embrace it. But yeah, I think, 65, that's the official.
That's official age. Maybe it's
Age to be a
67 now
senior.
because when you retire later in life, I don't know, in the
Yeah.
United States, what's the age now?
Well, I
65, 67?
That's when you're able to take advantage of all the senior benefits that you have
So-
in society. So 65, I guess.
65.
You're a senior.
You're a senior.
Before
Senior
that,
citizen.
Maybe you're middle-aged.
And in Poland, they also use this word now.
Senior.
Seniorze. Yes?
And I like it because it doesn't, you're not saying they're old. Elderly gives you this mental image of somebody all hunched over.
Crippled.
Yeah, you know, in a
Walking
rocking
stick,
chair
yeah.
and stuff. And, you know, that's not where a lot of people are much more vibrant than that. And I don't think they feel elderly. You know.
All right, so we've gone through all of the ages. I hope that this is somewhat useful to you. It's useful to me. I've learned quite a bit from you, Amanda.
Very useful.
And so we look forward to seeing you again, and we'll talk about a lot of terms that are complicated or ambiguous in Polish for us as Americans, and how do you translate them into English? How do you become more effective communicators in English? So bye-bye for now.